And we're live, I think. So, hey, I'm Bob Cooney, but you know that, and I am here this week. This one, I'm excited about. Not that I don't get excited about everything. I'm like a puppy dog, but I'm really excited about this because this is going to fill a big gap in my library and in the knowledge base of my audience and in the industry. Mike Carrillo. I even asked you how you pronounce it, and then I get it wrong, right? It is 5 a.m. here in Melbourne, so that's my excuse.
That's a welcome pass.
From FetchRev, thanks for joining, Mike.
Absolutely, thanks for having me, Bob. Excited.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, man. So one of the biggest issues that arcade owners have, and this is, I think, specifically to, kind of what started this for me was VR arcades. And VR arcades are struggling with marketing. There's a lot of like passionate entrepreneurs that got into VR because they saw it, they did it, they put on a headset, they're like, holy shit, this is amazing. We have to bring this to the world. Yeah. And then they went out and they found a shopping center somewhere with some empty space, and they rented it and they built this stuff. And then they get there and they open the doors and thinking the world is going to line up. And then slowly some of them like realize that, shit, I got to do marketing. I got to get the message out there. And there's very little that I've become. I'm a career marketer. I've been doing marketing for 30 years. And there's very little that I've ever seen that's harder to market than a VR experience.
Sure.
And so I wanted to bring you guys in. We've run into each other at a lot of trade shows in the amusement industry, and thought you could help fill a need in the market. And that's why we're here today. So we're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about lead gen. We're going to talk about making more money with virtual reality. And Mike's going to help us plug some of the knowledge gaps and offer some solutions. So thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, excited to be here. I always love to talk marketing. It's I've personally been in the small business space, been an entrepreneur. That's how I actually came into FetchRev. And a lot of our leadership are like, that's what our background is. My dad is a small business owner. Our CEO's dad is a small business owner. Like, we grew up in that within different industries, obviously, but at the same time, the core of that problem is still there. And the core of that problem is, how do you get customers coming in the door? Right. So I think we all kind of go into it, and we hope that if you build it, they will come. Unfortunately, it just doesn't always pan out that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So give me a little background. How did you get into this? What's your background? How did you wind up here? And then we'll talk about FetchRev, and then we'll dive into the details.
Yeah, so I've been in a number of different industries. Actually, the majority of my background is within the automotive industry. So we're born and raised here in Arizona. We're actually out of Tempe, Arizona. That's where the FetchRev offices are. I had, a variety of things. Call centers. I had opened inbound, outbound call centers, done sales for different companies, consulting, owned auto glass kind of tint detail shops, and in a couple different formats. So it's kind of been around the block in a number of different ways. And I think we may have lost Bob's connection. I know he was struggling with his connection there a little bit. I'm just going to keep pushing forward. But we had, I ended up coming into this space and in digital marketing through a connection I had with our CEO, Brandon Wiley. I ended up coming in as kind of VP of business development, and really just kind of fell in love with the product. I mean, one of the main things I really kind of love and resonate with the FetchRev product is the fact that it's all just geared towards a small business owner. Our whole thing is written on the walls of our office. We love small business. We want to see small business owners succeed. But there's a lot that goes to that, right? There's a lot that needs doing.
Yeah, am I back?
You're back, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm not sure what happened.
Forward with the explanation.
That was good. That was awesome. So yeah, and so FetchRev, like, talk a little bit about what you guys do now. Let's give me the elevator pitch and from your perspective, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, FetchRev. Our heart and soul is repeat foot traffic, right? So how do we get your customers coming back in the door more often? So how do we and whether that's incentivizing them through different promotions, making sure that our messages are being seen in the places that they're already living, and communicating with them in a way that is not only consistent, but it's digestible, and that strong calls to actions, right? How do we call people to a specific action and get them to take a result? And I would argue one of the things that I think we probably do better than most in marketing is our trackability, right? We're firm believers that successful marketing is trackable marketing. So how do we create a system in which we can drive repeat foot traffic, get people coming back to the door more regularly, but at the same time be able to show strong results for that, as I think that's one of the primary burdens of most business owners in marketing is how do you draw a return on investment for the different things that you're investing in and putting money into.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, and you hit on one of the key tenets I think that people really struggle with, which is, in the VR industry, we talk about replayability as far as a game goes. But there's also this notion of repeat business from a marketing standpoint, and like so within FE, so you guys do a lot of work like in trampoline parks, like that. I think was that the first segment? Like, where do you? Let's start there. Sorry, so many questions. Where's your business now? Like, what verticals are you in? What micro verticals are you in?
Yeah, so we're across a few. So family entertainment, although it was not our initial market, it has become the largest one that we serve. So we're in more than 1,000 family entertainment centers, trampoline parks across the country. So we're trampoline, I think, is probably how we kind of got introduced to that world. But I would say the world of family entertainment centers at large is probably that's really our sweet spot.
Yeah, and then
there are a number of other verticals we serve. So we are in. We do some auto repair. We have some car washes. Health and beauty is another big one of ours. So there are some other areas we got in.
And I heard you're also doing like these float centers now too.
Yeah. So float centers, it's amazing. Within the world of family entertainment, I actually just have a friend of mine who just opened a smash center where you just go in and smash things that they have in the back room, right? And now we have
like old televisions and shit, like.
Yeah. They just put TVs on the wall, and you go in, you get a sledgehammer and some goggles, and you go to town. Which doesn't sound like a bad way to spend an afternoon, but this whole concept of different family entertainment and attractions, it's blowing up. But float centers are another one we're starting to see more and more come out.
And the reason I talk about float centers, there was a movie called Altered States with William Hurt back in the day, and I want to say this is maybe even back in the 70s, and it was about this guy that goes into a sensory deprivation tank and is doing like drugs and stuff and becomes a monkey. It's like really weird and fucked up. But I was thinking about VR in a flotation tank. Like, and they have these new, because I've been talking to I just talked to these guys that do the swim with goggles VR experience. So they have waterproof headsets they're putting on water slides too. And so, I was talking to Kyle from your company about going to the conference. I guess there's a float conference coming up in Denver, and finding somebody that's willing to experiment with virtual reality experiences in a flotation tank. I think that would be really interesting and mind-blowing.
Well, I'm ready to try it whenever you have some sort of a product for me to give a run on. I'm in.
Yeah, cool. So, so you're in the industry, and the challenge there is repeat visits, right? And so that's where you guys shine. You take an existing audience, whatever that is, and we'll talk about how you can engage them. And then what do you do to drive repeat visits? Like at a high level, we'll get into the nitty-gritty in a second, but what's so special about what you guys do that drives repeat visitation?
I think so. In the world, really in marketing, kind of at large, even take it outside of FetchRev, it's really about knowing your customer. We really try to look at kind of three primary tenets. It's you got to know who they are, you got to know where you're going to be speaking to them at, you got to know how to speak to them. As not every audience resonates the same. So, but in order to do any of those tenets, you have to start by having some strong data collection, right? You have to know who your customer is. So when you look at kind of FetchRev and what it is we're trying to do is really kind of primarily two things. We help our customers collect more customer data. So what does that look like when folks come into your center, whether in an FEC or specifically VR? How are you collecting their data so that you're able to remarket back to them? And then what does remarketing back to them look like in a way that's compelling, that drives actual transactions and purchases, and not simply just awareness, but how do we actually get them to take action and do repeat visits? And really, I believe that most of that comes down to right person, right place, right time, right? You got to know who that human is. You got to know who you're speaking to, and you have to have the right message to be able to deliver.
Yeah. And so when you say collect customer data, like, give me some examples of what you mean by that, and how do the good ones do it, and how should people be doing it? And
Sure.
and then how do you leverage that into driving more traffic? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and there's a kind of a variety of different ways that we see it done. I mean, there's old school at the very beginning, pen and paper, right? Are you asking the people when they come up to the counter? But with the advance of technology, there's lots of better ways, I would argue, to begin going about doing that, easier ways. There's also some ways that we're automatically doing it that oftentimes we don't think about. So, for example, our favorite way of data collection here at FetchRev is Wi-Fi data collection. So everybody wants free Wi-Fi. So if you've been in one of those centers where oftentimes you see them in hotels, small amusement parks, family entertainment centers, right? And even some restaurants where you log in order to gain access to the Wi-Fi. You have to log in using your information. So the kind of the main tenets that we look at least in the world of FEC, are we want to know names, we want to know email addresses, phone numbers, and then dates of birth. Especially if you're in an area where driving birthday parties or those types of group experiences, if group experiences are a big piece, that birthday party is a really big piece. So those are kind of the main tenets that we want to see people collecting.
Now, within the trampoline park space, which I think is similar in this in the VR arcade space, a lot of people are using waivers. And so do you use the waiver data to collect that information also?
Absolutely, yeah. Having a waiver system in place is, I mean, that's data gold, right? Because now you have every single person who's coming in there and trying your product who is required to give you their data, right? So are you asking for the right things? I think the mistake we see oftentimes is you get the data, but it's how do you go about implementing that well? And how you go about using that in a way that's good and doesn't drive people unsubscribing from your messaging or walking away from that.
Do you help people with privacy policy to be able to market to the people who sign the waivers? Like, because I think that's an issue right now, right? Is you get their information on a waiver, then you start marketing to them. You need permission to be able to do that in this day and age. How do you help? Can you help people with that, or do they just have to figure that out on their own?
We don't really help with privacy policies. The main there's some pretty good stock kind of legalese privacy policies out there that you can use. It's not something that we personally write, but I would argue that the main concern, at least of a new owner who's coming in and starting to collect data, whether that's cell phones, emails, is how do you store that data, right? And are you using that data in a way that's legal? Because there are just general laws applying how you can go about communicating with that customer. What does that look like? And the reality is, especially with you, Bob, doing a lot of business out of the country, you have GDPR in the UK and things like that are really coming in. Now you're starting to see those same types of restrictions really coming in California. And so, hey, how do you be aware? How do you stay on top of that so you're housing data correctly? The worst word you really want to hear as a small business owner in the world of data these days is breach, right? You don't want to ever have that be used. So how do you hold that respectfully? And a lot of that goes into your terms policies, but a lot of it's staff training as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's enough of that boring legal shit. And and Paul's got some good questions. I'm going to circle back to because I don't think I'm there yet. But thanks for those, Paul. As I start them, and I'll come back to them. So we collect the data, right? And I think VR arcades in general are good at doing that because they're using waivers, whether they're using them for legal liability or just for promotional, purposes to get the email, they're getting them. Yeah. And then how do you and one of the questions Paul's asking is about another company in the amusement industry space called Center Edge. Yeah. I'm sure you guys know those guys. You come up against them. Like, what do you guys do differently than they do? Like, where's because you guys have a really narrow sweet spot that you've perfected, and that's what makes me interested.
Yeah, no, and Center Edge is actually an integration. They're an integration partner of ours. We've worked with them. Share a lot of the same customers. We don't really have a lot of crossover in terms of what it is that we're bringing. There are aspects of the Center Edge platform that help you collect customer data, but that's something to keep in mind. Is there's a lot of different platforms. Whether you have that waiver system or you have electronic game cards. There's going to be a lot of different systems that are holding different amounts of data that we want to be able to compile into one place, and Center Edge would be another data source. So all of your purchases. So Center Edge really, I would argue, is more of a point of sale system, which we're not a point of sale system, right? We're not looking to run the front end of your business. Center Edge is fantastic at that and helping with actual birthday party bookings. That's probably the distinction there.
Now, one of the advantages of VR arcades is the content is changing constantly, and there's a couple of companies in the FEC. Like I think Dave & Buster's has done the best job I've seen of what they do is they'll go out and get exclusives for a game, right? By committing to a massive, large purpose and TV ads. So they'll get the exclusive for Halo, the exclusive for this, the exclusive for that, and then they'll run TV ads to drive people in because they have a new game and it's the only place that you can play it, right? in a trampoline park, it's got to be hard to come up with compelling reasons to increase frequency of visit. In arcades, there's always new content to promote, right? And there's new games coming. This past week, or what was it? It was just a new game put out. Was it Walking Dead? No, Westworld. So Servios just released Westworld VR experience, right? For arcades. Now talk about a massive media property that people are really excited about. Like, I think in the VR arcade space, there's a lot of fodder for you to work with. Like, how do you use that? Like, so how do you use content? How do you get messaging to get people to come back and care more frequently? Let's get into the nitty gritty of it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that VR has a really unique sales proposition in that the experience can change without the equipment changing, right? So that you have other additional things to sell. And I think that the key there is, one, always focusing on the experience. I think a lot of times some of the kind of baseline mistakes that we see small business owners making is talking about them instead of talking about the consumer.
How many times have you heard me say that? What's in it for the customer? With them.
It is. Yes, it's always about the customer, right? You are not the hero of your story, right? And you look at, and there's a lot of great story brand information out there that you can look at if you Google story branding. But it's really talking about, like, you should be, as the business owner and as the communicator in your marketing messages, you're the Obi-Wan, right? You're not the Luke. Like, Luke's the hero. You're just the guy pointing him where to go. And so it's really important to focus on what is that customer experience. So what is it that they get out of it? Not just like, hey, here's the coolest new image from the inside of our game, because although that can be compelling in the right format, but what is that experience? What are they going to get from an emotional standpoint? What are the things, what are the boxes that you're checking for them that they don't even really realize that they're checking? Whether that's group fun, maybe they've never thought about it from a party. Maybe they've never thought about it from a corporate event of a team building exercise, to be able to go stand in the zero latency environment and with, 3 of your buddies and do that. So it's about speaking to the right customer and what is the box they're trying to check with the whatever event they're planning, or maybe it's just the evening that they're trying to do, but speaking to that, even arguably more so than you speak about the actual ins and outs of your own product.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about VR arcades, because those are the people that I think have the biggest need, and right now I think most FECs understand how to market, and you guys are helping them, and you've got programs there. But there's these hundreds and hundreds of small business owners. It's a bit of a cottage industry. And they've got this amazing experience they can sell with new content all the time. Mm-hmm. What is it that you're like? Let's talk about the FetchRev platform. So they've collected data. They give you email addresses and birth dates and names and stuff of people. What do you guys do different? Like, this isn't just a function of like an email, like MailChimp, right? Like, you guys have a really sophisticated platform that does a specific thing very well. What is it? How's it work?
Yeah, so we're all about driving actionable, or I should say sending actionable offers. And so what I mean by an actionable offer, this is something that your customer can click on, they can purchase, they can interact with, they can claim, they can do something with that offer right out of the gate. So as you mentioned MailChimp, right? When you look back at, I've spent the past 15 years of my career in this kind of small business marketing space. You see trends kind of come along and plug along, right? There was the constant contact, right? Name of a company, but really encouraging. You feel like you need to be in constant contact with your customer. Newsletter. How do you get that out, repeating every single week and stay in constant contact with your newsletter? Well, then we found out, customers frankly don't always want to be in constant contact with every business that they interact with. So it started driving unsubscribe rates. There's a big push in social. Where it was, hey, it's all about social media, be posting. When what we found is that, with all marketing, there's no real silver bullet, but what there is the ability to make an offer that's compelling enough that regardless of what platform it comes across of, whether or not you're getting that in your email, a plugin that sits on your website, whether that's your social media accounts, it's the offer that you're pushing that makes a big difference. And so what we talk about all the time is actionable offers. Consumers have moved to a point where they're not consuming information like they used to from newsletters. So that's, a big thing that we see in the industry is like, hey, we're sending out weekly newsletters. We have, in the world of FECs, we have karaoke on Thursdays, and we have, discount this on Tuesdays. And the reality is,
The reality is nobody gives a shit, right? Is the reality.
At the end of the day, nobody cares, right? Nobody's thinking about your business as much as you are. So what they are thinking about is, okay, what does this look like for me tonight? What can I do? And so that's where we always drive that. Everything we push out is something where it's, hey, you can purchase this, you can buy it. You can buy it straight from the platform, and you can buy it straight through the channel that you saw it on, right? So whether or not you get a FetchRev promotion on Facebook, or you see a FetchRev promotion in your email or on the website, you're able to purchase it and buy that immediately. I would argue one of the other main big components there is it's a very, very easy purchase process. So one of the mistakes I think we see regularly in e-commerce websites. So if you're building that new website and you're trying to drive more of those purchases online, you have to make that purchase process as simple as possible, right? How do we make it as easy as possible for your customers to do business with you? What happens is sometimes we go try to buy like a gift card on some of your competitors' websites.
Yeah.
Are you having to fill out your address and your email and where you went to college? And this every single piece of information you ask for in that context, you're going to get one more person to drop off fall out of that purchase process. So that's what FetchRev does. It's about making it as easy as possible to buy.
And so what happens is that, so we'll talk about what platforms you work on, but then I want to talk about the service behind it, because there's lots of self-service platforms out there and plugins to websites that enable you to do stuff like this. But what I've found is operators just are too busy. Like, you got to list, 99 problems and building offers to get people to come back ain't one of them, right? I mean, I'm trying to keep the lights on. I'm trying to get the kids running around. Oftentimes these guys are owner operators. They're in the location 60 hours a week because they're not making enough money necessarily to hire a manager. And so, they're working hard to keep the thing running, and they don't have time to learn all this shit. And so what platforms do you guys, so you've mentioned Facebook and you've mentioned website. Are those the two primary platforms that you guys engage on?
Yeah, so there's a few things there. So there is every business owner is challenged with that. Well, I have to wear 30 hats. And so we, as FetchRev, we saw that a number of years ago. We actually, when we first kind of came out in, let's say 2014, it was a DIY platform. It was hey, here's a tool that'll work, go run with it. It's a great tool, we're going to get you on there. What we found is we for a small segment of our customers, we started doing things like writing copy for them. We started doing the regular actions that have to be done at a regular cadence, that when you're in the middle of a center, there's always another fire that's burning brighter that takes your attention away. So we started taking that off, and we created a customer success team where their whole focus is, how do we make our customers more money? So they're writing the copy, they're writing the subject lines for emails. They're doing all that heavy lifting for you. That way, you're not having to come up with that. Plus, we have the benefit of working with, when you work with 1,000+ different customers, you see trends, right? We know what works, and we know what doesn't work. And although we never dictate what a customer has to run in terms of their offer, we do have that breadth of knowledge, and we have that base we can go to and say, hey, this is what we've seen work, regardless of what demographic you're in, where you live. We know what that messaging is going to look like.
Yeah. So if you do the offers, like, and you're in a market where there's multiple customers, how do you decide? Do you call the guy? Does your success team call the customer, your customer up, the operator, and say, hey, here's what I'd like to do for the next campaign or whatever, and you actually just talk them through it? And
we actually just work right through it. Yeah. So we have customers who interact solely on email, and we can talk and plan and say, hey, here's the next quarter. Here's the different holidays that are coming up, right here. What types of promotions do you have going on? What events do you have going on in your center? What are the different activities you want to bring attention to? We're going to take that, and we're going to build campaigns based off of that kind of collaborative effort. We're going to do kind of the heavy lifting of the writing of the copy and doing these things, the things that where most people freeze. That I think, as I've seen, even with myself, when you're pushing new promotions, sometimes it's easy. You can sit there and try to type out the perfect offer and build the perfect thing, and you never end up hitting send because you're afraid it's never going to be perfect, right? So
and And one of the things that I've found is that it's really easy, to criticize other people's copy. And it's even easier to write something for somebody else. But when you write it for yourself and your own business, it's like vapor log. Like I struggle with that. I've been doing this forever. And I try to write shit for my own website and I'm just like, oh, and I totally freeze. And I have to have somebody else look at it and say, come on, dude, just say this. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's that outside perspective of just kind of looking at it in a way, because when you're in the weeds and you're there running the day-to-day of the business, sometimes you get a little bit lost because you don't get a chance to step back and see the big picture of here's maybe a different way to look at that. So here's another way to frame it for your customer. But yeah, we're going to do that kind of heavy lifting. We're going to help people with that perspective. But ultimately, if you want to be as hands-off as you can, where we send you a proof and say, hey, this is what we're planning on doing, you say that looks good, and we're going to execute the rest, and you just watch the tracking.
All right, so you create some offers, right? And they show up in different places. They show up when somebody goes to the website. There's a pop-up, right? I've seen a demo of this, right? There's a pop-up with an offer that says "Buy this now," boom, right? And that offer could be how do you drive offers? And because you talked about data and collecting data and understanding the different customer segments. Now, how do you target different offers to different customers based on data, and if so, how? Yeah,
so that's a great question. So yes, there are a number of different platforms that we put it out on. There are things like the plugin on your website. When we provide a plugin, it pops up every customer. Now, the beauty there is that's a great tool for new customer acquisition, because most people are going to go out and check your website out before they come in and walk in your door because they want to have an idea of what they're getting into. So that's a great place to capture that kind of impulse purchase. Impulse purchases. I was reading some statistics on millennials and impulse purchases the other day. If you don't have a way for people to make an impulse buy on your website when they're excited, you're missing out on a huge market opportunity. So that's one big piece of that. In terms of kind of that right place, right offer, right time, I think one of the good examples of how we go about doing it is our birthday drip. So we help a lot of obviously family entertainment centers, booking more birthday parties. How are you getting people back in the door, driving those kind of big, more group events? And so one of the ways we do that is our system is going to be able to run really that for you on the back end. So say you're having an offer for one of your, for your customers to come in and then say, you're going to come in for this birthday party and we're going to offer you this game card, right? Or maybe some sort of value add promotion. We're going to send that out automatically, triggered based on that date of birth. So kind of what I've seen as common practice in the FEC space is to say, okay, here's all the birthdays we did last year in August. Let's send out an email on August 1st and say, hey, come back and do it again. The problem with that is a couple things. One, if that party's on August 2nd, you've already missed it, right? Mom's already made those plans a long time ago. I have 4 little kids at home. Trust me, my wife has it figured out long before she got that email. 2, when my wife gets that email in the morning, right? She's trying to get 4 little kids out the door and ready for school. That thing's going to get buried. She's never going to see it again. Because when you send out an email that just says book now, what parents don't know is how many kids are coming, what day is going to work best, right? You have to think about the context in which they're living. So we've actually stopped and moved away even from just asking people to book parties, where our communications are all driven around asking people to claim a special offer. So claim this offer, and if you book that party in the next 10 days, then you're going to get X incentive. And the beauty of that is now you're getting people, they're getting an email, they're getting it in a timely fashion because it's automatically going to go out at a certain cadence before their party, so we're never catching them in time. 2, you're not asking them to take the time to do something that they don't have time to do right now. We're just saying, hey, just raise your hand. And then 3, now you have a list of hand raisers of people who have said, oh, I am interested in claiming that, right? You're going to have a much bigger conversion of people who are willing to claim a coupon than they are willing to say, like, okay, I'll just book a party right now. So what we do is we want that kind of low-hanging fruit, so then we can capitalize on here's the ideal people to get this message. They got it at the right time to the right person with the right offer.
Now, the people that have claimed the offer, it doesn't cost them anything, right? They just click a button, and now what do you do with them? So they're moved into a different part of the consideration funnel. Right? They've raised their hand. They're saying, all right, I'm interested. Now what happens? How do you make sure they convert?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens is once they claim that coupon and they drop into that next part of the funnel, our system is automatically going to be pushing out to them and saying, hey, don't forget, it's 8 more days you have left to book this party to claim this coupon, right? Hey, we have 2 more days left. And so the gentleman brought up Center Edge earlier. Our system will just push them straight to Center Edge's party booking software with a link. So we're running the birthday drip, but we're pushing them still to your online party booking tool, or whether that's in-house. But it's going to drop them into the second piece of the funnel is just kind of a nurture, just a reminder. Then the people who do it really well and who really kind of go next level with it are the people who are focusing in their center, have staff around trying to book these group events, trying to book these parties, who are old school, just getting on the phone, because you have that lead list. You have that lead list of somebody who said, yes, I'm interested. Now, whether you want to take the extra steps to make that call or not, that's different, but our system makes a dramatic uptick in birthday party bookings.
Yeah, keep the questions coming, guys. I'm going to get to them, I promise. And so, all right. So there's an example with birthday parties and offers, and the offer. Like, give me some stats. Like, what kind of uplift have you seen? What kind of conversion rates do you get when let's just focus on birthday parties, because it's a massive part of the business, and a lot of VR arcades don't do enough of them, frankly. And I think that's part of it is because they don't have the sophisticated marketing tools to be able to do it. So what kind of success have you seen on birthday parties, for example?
I mean, so a lot of it hinges on data, so a lot of it depends on how good the center has done up until this point at collecting data and having birthday parties to work with. But assuming that you have some dates of birth.
They all have birth dates. Like, I know they're all neighbors. They all have birth dates.
Yeah. If you have a decent sized list and you're running our birthday drip campaign, you can see 10 to 15 more birthday parties a month easily just by turning the switch on. And just having that regular cadence. If you get aggressive with it and start working that as a lead list and really try to sell into that, you're going to do even better. Our customers in the family entertainment space see 6 to 7 times return on investment with their time at FetchRev. Yeah,
crazy. All right, so birthday parties are one thing. What about events? Like, so I'm gonna do a quick screen share here.
Yeah.
And I just talked to the guys yesterday from Main Event, and they're doing this weekend. They rolled out Beat Saber at all of their main events, and let me know if you guys can see this Facebook page. But it's instead of Labor Day weekend, they're calling it Saber Day weekend. And what they're doing is they're running a Beat Saber contest, and every store is giving away a free game of Beat Saber, and they're having a contest where you can win an Oculus Quest. And they told me that it's gone off the hook, like massive response rates to this event. And they've got a massive email database that they're using and engaging and stuff like that. Now they might be using media too, I'm not sure. So what do you guys do around special events, and how does that work, and how could arcade instead of Labor Day? Like, how would you use your platform for that?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. I think the plugin on the website is a really strong way to do that. So we've seen a lot of FECs really capitalize on booking their events through the plugin on the website. What's an easy buy? What's the easiest way for somebody to raise their hand and take advantage? Also, this the new people coming to your website, those coming to visit. Those are good guys that have already shown interest. You've already spent the money to get them to your website. So if we're missing them in the conversion, that's going to be a big gap. Event driven through that is always going to be a strong move. Plus, then you're able to take your entire database and say, hey, let's build a custom offer around this, whether it's a group of tickets or what that looks like. We can build that offer, and we're going to push it out to the entirety of your database. So directly from that email, they can purchase their tickets directly through that Facebook page. Instead of a book now, it could be a buy now, and they've already bought their tickets before they come in. So we've seen a lot of our FEC partners across the country use it for driving those types of event and actual ticket sales through utilizing the FetchRev platform.
Yeah. And so how does it and so from a purchase standpoint, do you guys have a transaction engine, or do they have to have that, or does it have to work with third? So a lot of people use Springboard, for example, for like reservations and management. How do you integrate with third parties? And if you don't have a third party purchase engine, how do you provide that capability for people to actually buy?
Yeah, so we do have we use Stripe as built into our platform. That's our processor. So all the processing is actually done through the FetchRev platform. So that there is an additional. You don't have to worry about adding that or trying to tag that on. In terms of your actual event booking, we don't do event booking. So that's trying to get into the party booking space where we're actually taking the reservation and building the packages. Yeah. That's not our expertise. There's a lot of really great tools out there that do that. Including Center Edge and some of the ones you've mentioned that do that really, really well. What we found is our wheelhouse is how do we get them to take action and buy the ticket. And so that's really where we've spent our time, and that's what we do.
But as far as an integration, if you guys were the big platforms in the VR arcade space are Springboard and Synthesis, you could do integrations with those potentially if there was a market there, and then push them after they bought the offer. Absolutely. You could push them to the reservation page, right?
Yep. I think we've probably added a good 10, 12 different new integration partners since we last saw you at IAPA. And that's going consistently. So different point of sale systems, card systems, because really data is king in all of marketing going forward. The best thing that you can do to future-proof your business, and if you're in VR and you have waiver systems, you're in a really good place, is to have that data, because that customer data, that unique personalization experience is what's going to make that and what's always going to be driving that from here going forward.
Now, have you done integrations with some of the third-party waiver systems to be able to pull that information out? Because one of the questions is storing data and protecting it. How do you handle the data? Talk about that.
Yeah, so having a system that compliantly stores your data and that you use it in an appropriate way is huge. And although I'll tell you right now, Bob, I've been a talker all my life, but I'm not as a technical guy who could walk you through the details of what our security system is that I don't know exactly how it all works. But what I do know is you have to be able to protect that. You have to have a certain level of sign-in security, who has access to it, what employees are, right? You have to be really, really wise about how you do that. Same thing with the server, your waiver systems. Now, what an integration does is it's going to allow that data to go move back and forth. Your systems are going to be able to talk to each other. So that way you're not having to move data. You're not having to store those things in more than one place or on different servers, or even worse yet, on a machine that's just sitting there in your center.
Yeah, but if they don't have the integration, are they sending you emails via like Excel spreadsheets and you import them into the platform, or do you give them a way to upload that themselves? Like, how is that handled in the initial integration piece?
Yeah, so they can, if there's no integration in place, you simply log into your FetchRev platform and you can go and upload a new list from there. And we get that in and dropped in. If you're using the FetchRev like Wi-Fi data collection, when people enter in there, it just drops straight into the platform. They start getting messages right back to them right away. So
you actually have a captive portal program for Wi-Fi hotspots.
We do
in arcades that ties back in. And do you charge extra for that, or is that just part of the service?
Built in every package that we have is the Wi-Fi data collection. Now, you may have to get a couple additional hotspots depending on how big your footprint is and that type of thing. But that is included, and really it's because that's what's going to drive success. The more data you can collect, and if you're utilizing it well, an email address should be making you $1 to $2 a year just by having it. An email address with a birthday tied to it should be more on the $5 to $10 scale.
That's what I've seen. I've seen $5 to $10. Value of a
so it's critical that you have that. It's critical that you have that.
Yeah. And how do you work? So I get email, like you have an email campaign, list, you send out an email, people go back. Now people go to the website. Are you using like cookies and pixels and all of that magic fairy dust to track people through their online journeys as well? So if somebody comes to my website to check me out and they don't buy the offer or take the offer, what happens? Like, are you getting them and retargeting them?
So our platform does have, although it doesn't have kind of your traditional retargeting to where, because we provide you a little piece of JavaScript and that goes into your website and we can change the offers on the back end from there. So although that won't continue to track you around, what we do have is if they go into that offer, we do have shopping cart abandonment. So when a customer gets to that cart stage and then they decide to leave, they can see in their Facebook newsfeed again later, hey, don't forget to finish your purchase. They can get that kickback email, and you're going to see another good 10 to 15% uplift in purchases just from that retargeting. Because, I mean, you know how it is. You get in the middle of something, you see something interesting on your tab, you drag it over to the side, figuring, hey, I'll look at this later, and it never comes to fruition, right? That type of retargeting and that shopping cart abandonment can make a huge difference in driving sales.
Yeah, so if they go through the purchase far enough, then the next time they go to Facebook, they might see an ad show up in the Facebook ad column that says, "Hey, don't forget to do this." Awesome.
Don't forget to finish the purchase.
All right, so they go to my website, they get a pop-up offer. If not, it follows them around. I've got an email campaign. Now, you've talked a lot about Facebook. How do you integrate Facebook into the marketing mix?
Yeah, Facebook's really, really interesting, and it's changing a lot. So there's a few things I think I would probably encourage owners to do. One, Facebook is going really, really heavily slanted towards groups. So what are the places in your community, the groups that you can get involved in? You'll probably notice this in your newsfeed. I'm into some weird, like I love growing plants. I'm a gardener, right? I raise some animals. I have all kinds of groups that I'm in. That makes up the majority of your newsfeed, right? That's what it does, because Facebook is really moving towards that. So people are still living there.
And so right now, if you're an arcade owner, and you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, create the Grand Rapids, Michigan VR group, right? Like right now, go on Facebook, do it right now, like, and start curating that group within your community, fans of VR in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or Toledo, Ohio, or Davenport, Iowa, or whatever. Make it really local, make it community based, and get all the people that care about VR and are interested in VR in that group. Like that's gold. Thank you. I love that.
Yeah,
idea.
absolutely. Get in there. Be the owner of the group. So you see this in realtors a lot, and I think a lot of other businesses miss out. Most of the groups you see that are of your town, like I live in Gilbert, Arizona, you'll see like the Go Gilbert Facebook page. That's created by a business owner, a realtor who just decided they wanted to own that page so they could push their messaging. You can do that too, right? You can start that in your community. Also look at where the other groups where this is already happening. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Go in there and become a part of the conversation. So go in there and start responding to questions when people are asking. I think another one of the kind of like, this is just a simple tip and trick for doing strong social media. Go to the businesses that you want to partner with, that you maybe share a similar audience with, and start sharing their posts. Don't make it all about you, but share the posts of the people in your community. Say there's a large corporation, like we have a Honeywell up the street. Start sharing Honeywell Chandler's posts on Facebook, and what you'll see is they'll begin to start to share yours. And then now you have an in to have that conversation, to drive those group parties, and start getting with the right people.
Now, let's say they build a group, or they have an audience, or they have 5,000 followers on their Facebook page. Do you guys create campaigns that live and run on Facebook that show up in those feeds, and how does that work?
Yeah, so all of our offers can be pushed directly into Facebook. So now this isn't, so you kind of have your ad section that live on the side. That's more of a pay-per-click style advertising done through Facebook. Yep. Ours is going to show up in the newsfeed like a post. So we're going to run it through there. Now, everything, again, the same way, we're going to focus on the same thing. It should be actionable and purchasable, right? If you're trying to get new people to come in, there should be something that they can buy, and they're going to be able to buy that directly through that link on Facebook. And then on the back end of Facebook, you can still go promote that. You can push that offer out. We actually used to have a whole built-in posting through Facebook on our site in terms of like actual running physical ads. The Facebook ad campaign stuff, I'm sure you've used it. It's robust, right? So you can actually go and take that. We're going to push that ad directly into Facebook. You can though go into the Facebook ad system and promote that. But instead of then having an advertisement that's just about, hey, this is going on Thursday, you want to say, hey, this is going on Thursday. Buy your tickets now. Click here. And make it really easy to buy.
Awesome. So you guys will create the campaign, and then if they want to pay to boost it or promote it, they can do that within. It lives in the campaign management platform of Facebook, and then they can just.
And here's a little tip that I would say, just to make clear: don't boost your Facebook posts. If you ever see a post on Facebook that says, "Hey, boost this for $5," go get one instead.
It's such a money grab by Facebook. Totally.
And if you're going to spend the time to run the ad, just get in there and build it. It's an easy thing to do, but pick your demographic. You know who your audience is, and if you don't, start there. Start building out those profiles of those customers. Who is the person that you're trying to get in front of? Is it a mom of kids who is bored in the middle of the day and looking for something to do? Who is it that you're trying to get in front of? And then start to craft those ads for them, or craft the demographics that the ad's going to be shown to. But I will tell you, just by and large, Facebook just boosts the posts, and we're going to get in front of 1,500 more people. You'd be better off getting a copy.
And because what you're doing is really you're even optimizing there for engagement, not conversion, right? And so engagement actually doesn't get you much if you're trying to actually build a profitable business. It makes you feel good. Oh, look at all these people that liked my post, but that yields zero in revenue, right? You got to sell tickets.
It's the same conversation we have around newsletters, right? Everybody loves click rates and open rates, but we like dollars and cents more. I didn't get into business for some solid click rates. I want to make some money.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about that, because one of the questions is around analytics and what do you give back to the operator. So you manage these campaigns, obviously. So you're not giving analytics back so people then have to interpret them, look for insights, and figure out what actions to take. You're doing that for them. Yeah. But you do give reports, and let's talk a little bit about the business model, because there's a question there as far as marketing spend and stuff like that. So let's start there. What do you recommend people, like from a marketing mix standpoint, as far as budgets go? Do you guys give any advice how much mix goes?
I don't actually have some specific advice that I could give on really a broad scale. I think so much of that is specific to market and where you are, who's your audience. Those things change a lot from big town to small town, that type of thing. So I'm a little hesitant to give some kind of blanket split information. But what I would say is whatever you're investing in should be trackable. If you're not able to track exactly what it did for you, then there's a really good chance you're just throwing money into the wind. So you want to be able to see and be able to track what that return on investment is, because if you can't track it, you can't change it. And if anything in marketing should be tweaked. Nothing works forever. So you need to be, if you don't have that analytics and that data to be able to learn from and make it better, then you're going to be wasting some money.
But you guys are kind of doing that, right? You're looking at the data, you're recommending the tweaks, like you've got it.
Absolutely.
And so I assume it's a report of some kind, like what's, and a bill. And so how do you, let's talk about that. How do you guys work? And because I know you have like an all you can eat model, but then you have a kind of percentage of sales model as far as sales growth goes. Talk about the different models and why do you have them and how do they work?
Yeah, so we have a couple different models. All of which I think is important to start with. Everything that we do is trackable. So you can log in, and the first time you log in, or anytime you log into the FetchRev platform, you're going to see a dashboard showing you exactly how much money we made you in the last 30 days in buy it now, like direct revenue, how much money in coupons has been claimed. So even those coupons have been claimed, if here's how much has been redeemed, here's how much you'd make if everybody came in and redeemed. Right? Here's all the new birthday parties, all the new email addresses we collected. So all that is always the first thing you look at. So that's right on front of your dashboard every time. So you're never left wondering what it is FetchRev is doing for you. In terms of the way our pricing structure works is we have a few different packages that you can look at on FetchRev.com, but they all typically are going to have a component. They're going to have a regular monthly fee. So this is just your regular monthly cost, which starts at $199 a month. And then with that, we also have typically we have what we call a success share. So it's a percentage of the sales done through our Buy It Now platform. So we as you mentioned, Bob, we do have a package that has no share. But the reason we did it that way is it allows people to kind of come in, dip your toe in the water a little bit and see how it works. And then once we prove your value to you, you can always upgrade out of that. So I know that success share, that gain share, revenue share, whatever you want to call it, is kind of a four-letter word, and I get it. However, there is an aspect of it where if we're not successful, if you're not successful, we're not successful. Because the reality is, for $199 a month, we can't write the copy, do the subject lines. We can't be your marketing team for that. Our success hinges on your success. But as you mentioned, there is an option that doesn't have that.
Yeah, and I think for people to try it, it makes sense. But ultimately, the problem with, in the arcade business is that they have to pay royalties back to the content owners. Right. It's a percentage of revenue, right, already. So they're paying 6 to 10 cents a minute. And most of them don't charge enough, but that's a whole different story, right? Sure. And so, they're charging $30 an hour and they're paying 10 cents a minute. And it's like, I'm already paying a bunch of my money out the door. Yeah. And then I've got rent and labor. And it's like, I'm already operating on a razor thin margin. And if I have to give a piece of that away, but as far as a way to try it and see what kind of success, and then you cap it and a flat fee and goes over, I think it's a total no-brainer. And I think every arcade owner should try this. You've got what's the commitment? What's the minimum commitment? It's 3 months.
Minimum for 3 months. We're really big on, listen, there's no silver bullet in marketing, right? But we also want you to give it the old college try, right? Give us 3 months. Let us show you what we can do. Let us work with your system, help you collect some data. And different customers are going to come in at different places. If you've been operating for 3 years, you have a waiver system in place, and you have 200,000 emails in your system, you're going to come out of the gate and crush it. If you're opening a new business and you don't know who your first customer is yet, that's going to look a little bit different. But that's part of what that kind of leveling up of our system and our pricing, that's why it's built that way.
Where do you find the breakpoint? Like in number of emails? Because obviously that's a big part of this. Like, what's that number that's got to be? Like, if you've got 50, you're like, you're just starting from scratch. If obviously somewhere between 0 and 200,000, there's a breakpoint, right?
There is. I would say, it depends. Again, there are a lot of factors. So the size of the community that you're in and things like that are a big driver. I would say when you get to that 2,000 to 3,000 email mark, that's a comfortable place. Absolutely, when those trampoline parks with the waivers or VR come in and you have, a couple 100,000 email addresses, you can do some serious damage with that kind of a list. But that's why we're always really big and always preaching that message of collect that data, get that data in, find the sources where it's living and get that compiled. But when you hit that 2,000, 3,000 tipping point, man, that email is going to start to really, really kick up. And then you can even utilize those email addresses in Facebook to start targeting your messaging directly to people on Facebook. And I think that's a big miss that a lot of owners don't know about.
So that's the lookalike audience thing, or is it actually just?
So it's not something that we offer. So this isn't a FetchRev product, but just as kind of a winning tips and tricks that I've seen. You can take that entire database, you can upload it to Facebook as a custom audience, and you can say, I don't want to display my ads to just anybody in the area. I want these people to see my ads. And so it'll actually drop those ads, it'll pair it, and it'll tell you. So if you drop in 60,000 email addresses, Facebook will tell you, hey, we matched on 30% of these are used for Facebook accounts, and now your ads are going to go straight into that. And if you live in the world of VR, you're like me, right? I'm on a lot of email lists. And you scroll on my Facebook, you're going to see Creative Works. You're going to see all these guys, right? Because they're getting their message in front of the right person at the right time. So that's a huge place to start. Again, not something FetchRev does, but get out there and use that because it's an incredible tool.
And it's easy enough, and you don't know how to do it. Just go on Google, go on YouTube and search Facebook lookalike, and you can not only track your actual audiences, but what then they'll do is they'll suggest other people that you don't know you don't have emails that have the same profiles. Exactly. So these people who might follow the same groups or have the same attributes. And if you guys haven't watched the new the Big Hack special on Netflix about the Cambridge Analytica hack with Facebook. You want to understand how some of this shit works and how good the algorithms are at predicting what people like. Yeah, and then put on your tinfoil hat and watch that shit. But as a marketer, you need to understand that because these guys have a really, really the ability to like match profiles ridiculously well. And so, definitely, if you're not doing lookalike audiences, you're just throwing money away.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. But if you have that place to start, you have that data to say, I want it to look like this audience, and you already know these are your ideal customer, man, that thing, it can really go and it can make a big difference. Then you get that FetchRev offer where it's purchasable directly through Facebook. And now you can push it, and instead of just saying, hey, boost this post to a few people who live around me. No, let's boost this post and get it in front of your exact target market and then get it in front of an audience that's built to look exactly like them. So there's some really cool stuff you can do.
Yeah, and so about that, like Paul's asking about control over the Facebook account, and when he says in-house, I assume he means by him. So if he's your client, do you guys go in? You obviously have a Facebook login for his Facebook account, or is it totally just an integration?
So we don't need your login details or anything like that. You log in through the FetchRev platform, but it's nothing you ever give to your success person or anything. We don't have that. So we're not really going on and making your posts. A lot of times people ask, do you do social media services? Like, we're not doing your weekly posts about what's happening in your center. It's really, we're using FetchRev or using Facebook as a platform to push our offers out onto. So
And then if they want to do more with what you've pushed there, then they go into the ad
then
platform.
You just go into that ad and then you build it from there. Correct.
Yeah, beautiful, cool. So, all right. So, and I know you guys have some exciting stuff that you can't really talk all about coming up, but what can you talk about where you guys are going? And by the way, I did put I put a little link in. I'm going to put it back up here. Go ahead and let's see, where is it? Or maybe I already put it up there. There we go. Fetch some revenue. So go ahead and click on that. Get some more information about FetchRev. If you're in the arcade business, I'll put the link in the notes too on the YouTube channel so people can see it. But get information. If you're running an arcade, and you don't do this, I think you're crazy, frankly. Like the investment of $199 a month for 3 months at $600, like plus a percentage of the upside, obviously. And then you can decide after 3 months, do you want to go all in? Do you want to kill it? What you want to do? But it feels like an absolute no-brainer to me. And I know a lot of operators in the FEC business, by the way, that are using this. That's where, what's your, do you have any stats as far as your conversion rate and your retention rate amongst customers? Because I think that's really telling about how well you guys are doing.
Yeah, and I hate to shoot off a wrong number because I haven't looked at that.
Make it up, everybody. Say it with conviction. Everybody will believe it.
100% done. Yeah. We have very, very strong retention within the FEC space. Our customers genuinely stay with us for years. Because we're not locking you into a contract. We want you to stay with us because we really kick ass at what we do, not because we locked you into some sort of a long-term agreement, right? We're in marketing. Frankly, if we're not doing our job, you should be able to leave. So the people that you're utilizing and using and leaning on for your marketing purposes, they should be standing behind their product, and that's what we really try to do.
So what's coming up for you guys? So you guys, you've got this core competency. It's actually fairly narrow. You're really good at it, which I love. I love people like do what you do well and just do that and stop fucking around with all the other shit. So now you're going to start fucking around with some other shit. What is that?
So we're excited. So you'll start seeing messaging coming out there, and really we'll have kind of the big push and announcement at IAPA this year, but a little sneak peek, FetchRev is becoming Hound. We're rebranding. And with that, really kind of bringing what came from a lot of the feedback from our existing customers. What FetchRev has done well in the past and up until now is reactivating the customers who've already been in your center. How do we take those customers who get in? How do we get them back in more often, spending dollars again? And with Hound, we're going to start bringing in new customers as well. So we're going to start getting messaging in front of a much larger audience, driving new customers into your door who haven't been in, and really pushing into some of these kind of deal platforms and things like that have been like. So you have companies like Groupon where
dude, you said the G word.
I know. Hey, trust me, it's
the G word.
But that's the problem, right? It's not sustainable. It's not good for business. It's not good for communities. And we're coming in with what we feel like is a extremely strong model to be able to help drive new business in your door in a way that's sustainable, affordable. It's good for you, and it's bringing you the right kind of customer, right? Not just whoever's going to try to get the cheapest deal and buy 1,000 of them, but how do we get the right customer in your door purchasing again? So and with some kind of cool new pricing models to go along with that. So
yeah, that's amazing. Look, if you can figure out how to make like the Groupon and the deal platforms usable for this industry, you've been a great help to the whole community, because a lot of these guys, as you know, they hate, they do it wrong. They don't know what they're doing. I do know operators that are using Groupon, because you can actually use the Groupon calendar to only sell your excess remnant inventory, what I would call from the ad business, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, book the deal come in on Tuesday after school. Tuesday, shit away for half price, and that's fine. I know you can't talk. I'm going to ask anyway. Is that some of the stuff you're going to help people do, or?
So it's going to be. It's about getting the right. So what we don't want to do is require people to discount 50% and then take 50% of their revenue. Right? It's not a good model because nobody's making money. So what happens is business owners end up using that to drive new business in the door, because inarguably Groupon will get new people to come in your door. But how do we get them to come into the door where they're your customer? Because that's right now. They're Groupon's customer. Groupon doesn't give you the email address. You're not going to get that data. So you're really just left with a one-time transaction. Maybe you got a little bit of ticket lift when they're in. Maybe you didn't, right? How do you make that profitable? So really, we're going to be taking a similar model in that we're going to be pushing these offers out to people, but it's going to be an extremely sustainable way, an extremely affordable way, and it's really curating the right message for them, where it's not a matter of, just splattering out your message out on everybody that you can. It's going to be extremely personalized.
Yeah, awesome. And that's going to be coming, you said you'll be at IAPA, and that's the big announcement. Why the rebrand? What's behind that? Like, rebranding's a big decision. Why the rebrand?
Well, it's actually kind of simple. So we are, right now we're FetchRev, because that's what we do. We go about fetching revenue. As we're making the transition, I should say, to bringing new customers in your door, what your customers don't want to see you trying to do is fetch their revenue. That works great for us. So but it doesn't really work for the consumer side. So as we're making this transition to being in front of the consumers and being that marketing arm in front of the consumers, we don't want consumers feeling like we're trying to fetch their revenue, right? That's got it.
So you're going to be brand forward to the consumer and then funnel those people back to your operator customers.
Exactly. Taking the heavy lifting out of not only customer retention, but new customer acquisition as well. It's going to be really big. Definitely come by our booth at IAPA. We got a huge spot there. We'll have a big party going on. It'll be a blast.
I'll definitely come by. Maybe we could do a quick little Facebook Live. I love to do Facebook Lives from IAPA.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Absolutely.
Tell people about what's going on. So I'll make sure I come by the booth and talk. Any last tips or tricks or suggestions you wanna make for people?
No, I think that's what they got. I think at the end of the day, if you look back in terms of marketing and where it's come, everything hinges on data. You look at the big guys like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, everything you do, your entire experience is hinged on knowing your customer. So that's what my main encouragement would be: collect that data, know your customer, and that is the secret to doing strong marketing.
Yeah, awesome. Mike, dude, thanks so much for being in existence. I think we need companies like yours that can help operators learn, because you can't be like you said, you can't be an expert at everything. You're running a business, a small business. You just don't have time to deal with this. You're wearing 30 hats, and the ability to cost effectively offload some of the stuff to somebody who's got expertise in the channel. This is the other thing that I love, is you guys are really vertical focused. So you understand the amusement market, the out-of-home entertainment market. I think VR is going to be a really interesting, 3-degree shift, and there's great content for you guys to work with. So I think it's gonna be a great partnership. I look forward to it.
I think it will be. I think it'd be a great fit, and certainly we'd love to chat with any of you who have additional questions. There is a link on the side here. If you want more information, I'm Mike at FetchRev. Really easy. If you just have general marketing questions, I'm just here to help. That's what I do. I work with center owners all day long doing that type of thing. So please reach out, Mike at FetchRev.com, if I can help you with that.
Cool. And you'll be at IAPA. Do you do work in Europe? Are you going to be in Paris at EAS? Or
yeah, we'll be in Paris at EAS. We'll be at IAPA. I mean, we're kind of everywhere you want to be.
At IATP, I assume, in New Orleans?
We'll be at IATP, absolutely.
So I'll be at all 3 of those places. Coming up, I'll be in Chicago in 2 weeks at the AAMA annual meeting, which is where the coin op industry gathers the manufacturers and distributors. Then off to Paris, where I'll see you there. Then back to New Orleans for the IATP show, and then ultimately at IAPA. So we're going to be crossing paths we'll be crossing paths all over the place. I look forward to learning more. Dude, thanks for joining. Thanks for everything you do. If you guys have questions about this, you can drop me an email at vrbob@bobcooney.com. You can email Mike at FetchRev.com. You can go to the FetchRev link I've got in the chat. You can look down below. There'll be a link there. You know how to reach us. So, but get your marketing on, guys. Stop waiting for people to succeed. This is an absolute no risk. If you don't have $600 in 3 months to try this, then you're not serious about the business. So I want to hear back from you. I want to know how many people are signing up for this and doing it. And then we'll come back in a few, and maybe in 3 or 4 months, and we can do a bit of a rehash of what's worked, what you're learning, what's happening. Maybe we'll get some users on and we'll do this over again later this year, early next year.
Love that. That'd be great. Cool. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We love you guys. Next week, no webinar. So we're moving to a new cadence. I've been getting some feedback that there's just too much content, and between this and the blog. So we're going to start kind of skipping a few weeks and then ultimately move to an every other week cadence. The other thing that's exciting is we're going to be repackaging all of this content and posting it as podcasts, so in 20-minute segments. So each 1-hour webinar will also be turned into a 20-minute audio podcast you'll be able to subscribe to on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify and all those cool kid places. So so I will not see you next week. I will see you hopefully live from Chicago in 2 weeks. Who's coming up? Do we know? We don't know. Yes. Yes, we do know. We do know. And I also have amazing kind of interactive art exhibition in San Francisco. I did a dinner there at a big projection map dinner there in March, where we had about 30 people, and it was using Microsoft HoloLens, and they recently shut down. And so we're going to talk about some of the real challenges and the retrospective of a high-end location-based VR art installation, and what it might take to be successful in that market. So 2 weeks from Chicago, with late weeks on the 12th of September. So we'll see you then. In the meantime, we'll see you everywhere else. Mike, thanks so much, man. Love you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.